How rich are you?
Very. When I say very, the average income in the US is $54,000, $55,000. The top 1% of earners in America make $450,000 a year and above. If you make $450,000 a year in America, you are very, very, very wealthy.
Hello guys, this tutorial is a full breakdown of one of the videos created by Natt Jongsala. You will learn from scratch how to edit a video that you saw at the start. Also, sorry for not posting a long video for a month, but in 2024 you can expect regular tutorials. I will try to post at least one video every other weekend. So let's go to After Effects. So I will give you the clip with Gary Vee talking, but you will have to cut it into 3 parts to get the same look that Natt created. Of course, first of all create a vertical composition and then adjust the size of the clip. Okay, right now it looks good. And we'll start by creating the first scene. There are a lot of things happening in the first scene, but we'll start with creating the background. So the background is just basically a grid and money falling effect. So import the money falling effect from the asset folder. For now, let's hide it because the first thing that we'll do is create a grid. So create a new solid, the color doesn't matter, and go to effects and presets and search for grid and add it to this solid. Now change the size from to width height sliders and play with the sliders to make it look like in Natt's video. Now copy the first part of this clip, so the part with this guy speaking. I will also change the names of these 4 layers. And as you can see, I've set the name of this duplicated part 1 layer to part 1 rotobrush because we'll use rotobrush on this one. So double click on this duplicated layer, go here and select rotobrush, go to the beginning of your timeline and we'll cut this person out of this background. So by holding left click you can increase the selection, and by holding Alt plus left mouse button you can decrease the selection. And now when you have him selected, go frame by frame to see if the selection is correct on every frame. Or if the person is not moving a lot, you can just skip through frames because it will probably be correct. Okay, I also forgot to mention that we also have to include his armchair. And at the end of this clip there is also Gary Vee. So in this part you have to include both the Gary Vee and the sofa that he's sitting on. Okay, so your selection should look something like this. Here it's just this guy with some of the armchair, and here it's the whole sofa with a Gary Vee. Actually, I will also include this bottom part. Okay, and when you're done with your selection, just hit freeze. Now this might take a while. Now go to your main composition, and to see if it worked, we can disable the first part, so this layer. Okay, as you can see, I've actually not included enough, so make it visible again and go to this part again and we'll just repair it. So go to the start of the timeline, of course unfreeze it, and then include this part of the armchair and also his leg. Let's skip through frames to see how it looks right now. Yeah, now it should be good. Let's freeze it again. Okay, let's go back to main composition. Let's see how it looks right now. Now it's perfect. Okay, so now make the grid visible and put it between these 2 part 1 layers. And as you can see, the grid now applies only in the background, and that's what we wanted. Now we'll decrease the opacity of this grid by a lot. So select this grid, click T on your keyboard and decrease the opacity. I will set it to like 25, let's say. And then you can also see that the background in the Natt's video is darker than here. So in order to darken this background, go to effects and presets and search for the effect levels. And put it on this lower part 1 layer. Now go here and move this arrow to the left. And as you can see, it's making the background darker. Okay, I think this position is pretty good, and I also decreased the opacity on the grid to 20%. And now the only thing that is remaining with the background is to add a money falling effect. So we have already imported this effect and just make it visible and put it above the grid but below the rotobrush part. Now go to effects and presets and search for key light and put it on this money effect. Now screen color, select the green and adjust the size and the position. Okay, what I also want to do is I want to make this money in the background kinda more green. So in order to do that, go to effects and presets and search for hue and saturation. Put it on this money. Now rotate this circle so that green is in the middle. And now increase the master saturation to make the money more green. Let's maybe do 60. Now we'll also decrease the opacity of this money. So go to opacity and set it to like 70 or maybe 60. Now another thing that I can see that this selection of Gary Vee is not really perfect. You can see the white border around his cap. So I will modify the selection. Go to Roto Brush and here just decrease the selection. Of course, unfreeze first. Okay, now it's better. It's still not perfect, but it's much better. Okay, so the background is ready, but as you can see in Natt's video, the main clip is actually also color corrected. I think it's a little darker and the contrast is increased. Okay, I think I'm done with color correction. This took a while, but I'm right now going to walk you through everything that I did. So as you can see in Natt's video, the screen is darker at the bottom. From the chest down, this whole character is kinda bluish, like with a blue tint. Another thing is that his face is lighter and overall there is more contrast. So first of all, to create the darker bottom effect, all I did is I just created a new solid and then I added a mask to this solid. So in order to do that, you have to create a new solid with a dark color, and then with this new solid selected, you go to pen tool and you draw something like this. And then you go to this layer, open masks and increase the mask feather to something like this. And then you have to decrease the opacity like that. And this is how I created this effect. So I will show you my values on this layer. You can see that the mask looks like that. It's pretty big. And then opacity is on 77% and mask feather is on 471%. So this is how I get the darker bottom effect. Now another two things are these two effects that I added to the part 1 Roto Brush layer, and first one is curves. As you can see, this is the effect that it gives. So it's just making this character darker, and you just have to search in effects and presets for curves, and then you can move this point to adjust the darkness. And now the second thing is brightness and contrast, and this is creating this effect. So it's just giving us a little more contrast and a little more brightness on his face. And now the next thing to create this look is you have to copy this layer. You have to copy the part 1 Roto Brush layer. And with this new layer, you don't really need the Roto Brush effect. As you can see, when I'm switching it off and on, it doesn't change anything. So what you really need is an extract. Maybe I will show you how it looks. What you really need is an extract and Lumetri color effect. So when you apply the extract effect, all it does, as you can see, it's basically, if you set the option to the options that I have, it's basically extracting all the white colors from the clip. And then when you add Lumetri color with these settings, you are basically adding a blue tint to this clip. And so now when you combine this all together, I get this look. And I think it's pretty similar to what Natt created. Of course, it's not the same, but as you can see, like there is a subtle blue tint, the bottom of the screen is darker, his face is lighter, so this is what we wanted. But now another thing is that when we go to the Gary Vee part, when I switch on and switch off the extract layer, you can see that it's giving way too little blue tint to the sofa. So in order to adjust it, what I will do is I will copy this Roto Brush layer again, then go to this new layer, delete all the things that are here. Now go to the first frame when Gary Vee appeared, so this frame, and shorten it to this moment, and double click on this layer, and now we'll make a new selection and we'll select only the sofa. So something like this, and let's now check the selection. Okay, I think it's good. Let's now freeze. Go to the main clip. Okay, and search for hue and saturation and apply hue and saturation on this layer and set the settings to something like this. Right now I think it's pretty similar to what Natt created. So the color should be like between green and this light blue, and master saturation to 32 and master lightness to 13. And now as you can see, it applied this kind of blue or green tint, so this is what we wanted. So I think the color correction part is done. Right now we can create the text and graphics coming from the bottom of the screen. So for now we'll start with the graphic just because it's easier. So go to the asset folder and import the Gary Vee picture. Of course, adjust the scale. And right now we'll color correct him. So go to effects and presets and search for hue and saturation. Again, I think it's with this subtle blue or green tint. So set the master hue to something like this, -201, and set the master saturation to like -80, I think. It looks pretty good. And right now we'll create the dollar signs on his eyes. So go up here and select the rectangle tool and create white rectangle on his eyes like that. Now of course rotate it, and we'll parent link it to the Gary V so that whenever the Gary V picture moves, the rectangle moves with him. And right now we'll create a new text layer and we'll type a dollar sign here. Change the font because Monsterrat is not really good for that. I will make it wider also. So I've set the font to Arial and version to bold, and then position it on his eyes. Okay, yeah, now I think it looks pretty good. And now what we have to do is parent link both of these dollar signs to the rectangle layer. And now we'll basically animate him coming on the screen. Actually, what we can do is select all of these 4 top layers, so all of the layers associated with Gary V, and pre-compose them. Let's call it Gary V. And right now it will be just much easier to manage this composition. Let's say go to 5 frames and keyframe the position here. And you can make this animation kinda long. So my start is on the 5th frame, you can see here, and the end is at 28th frame. Right now select both of these keyframes, hit F9, go to graph editor, and let's make an ease in animation. Something like this, or maybe like that. And let's see right now how it looks. Okay, I believe we can make this whole composition a little bigger. And then of course adjust the position. So at the last keyframe it should be right there. I think now it's better. Okay, so Gary V is animated, and now we'll animate the text. So the first thing that you want to do is to create a new text layer. And here I will write how rich is, all with capital letters. Now I will also make these letters longer, like that. And in order to create this flickering letters effect, you know, this effect that makes the letters change before it actually settles on the final letter. And in order to get that, go to effects and presets and search for decoder fade in and put it on the text. Now click U to show you the keyframes, and this effect does exactly what we want. So it basically creates this flickering letters effect. So what you want to do is set the first keyframe at the start of your timeline and set the second keyframe somewhere here, somewhere around this second keyframe of the Gary V. And let's see how it looks. Okay, it's good, but right now we'll modify how this text looks. Okay, I've moved this keyframe actually a little further, and right now what we want to do is add a drop shadow to this text. So go to effects and presets and search for drop shadow and set the settings to something like, I would say 99, and then distance to 10. Yeah, I think it looks pretty similar. Okay, so right now the only thing that is remaining on this text is to add a glow to it. So go to effects and presets and search for glow and add a glow to it. And I think these settings on the glow are pretty good. So glow threshold 100%, glow radius 57, and glow intensity 1. So right now we can create another text, and that will be Gary V. So in order to create the same animation like in Natt's video, we will just create every letter individually and then just animate the position of them. So create a new text and just type G here and set the color of this one to red, obviously, and also copy the drop shadow and glow from the first text layer and paste it on this layer. And now also increase the scale because this text is actually bigger than the first one. Okay, now we'll just copy it, move it to the right and change the letter to A. And I will be back when I create this second text. Okay, right now select all of these new letters, right click on them and pre-compose. And right now create the position animation on all of them. So keyframe the position here, go like almost 1 second ahead, keyframe the position here, go to the first keyframe and just put this letter somewhere down. And right now just do the same with every other letter. Remember to set the same Y value on every letter there. Actually put them a little lower, like that they are almost not visible on the screen. And right now just randomly stagger them. Okay, this is how it looks. Okay, and right now to get this look of the letters coming from the screen, not from the outside the screen, because the letters in Natt's video are coming like somewhere from there, and also they are feathered when they are coming out. And to get this look, create a new solid. The color doesn't matter. And right now pick a pen tool and draw a mask like that. So the bottom line of this mask should be in the place where you want these letters to start appearing on the screen. And right now go to masks and increase the mask feather. Like that is okay, I would say. And now set the track matte of this whole composition with the second text to this new solid and set it to Luma. And right now you can see this created this look of letters coming from the screen, not from outside the screen. But we should make that a little faster. So go inside this composition, select all of these second keyframes and move them closer to the first keyframes, because this animation is pretty fast. Let's see how it looks right now. Okay, I would say they are too staggered, so go there and actually make the beginning of them closer to each other. Another thing is that it's still too slow, so select the second keyframes and move them a little closer to the first keyframes. And now select all of these keyframes and hit F9, go to graph editor and make an ease in animation, so like that. Now let's see how it looks. Now it's better, but the second text composition should start a little later. So let's say right here. Still, I think even later. So let's move it further. Okay, when looking at everything in Premiere Pro, I see that the how rich is text takes too much time to get generated. So we'll move the second keyframe closer to the first keyframe. Let's see right now. Yeah, now I think it's better. Okay, so in the next part, so basically when the Gary V is saying very, there are three things happening. The first one is that the text is changing. The text very is coming on the screen and the text how rich is Gary V is disappearing. And it's disappearing by just keyframing opacity. The second thing is that dollar signs in his eyes are changing color to red. And the third thing is that dollar bills appear behind his head. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll create this very text. So go to the second text composition, copy one of these letters, paste it here at the top, because the style of this text is the same as of these letters. So create this text and right now increase the space between the letters and also make it longer like that. And also make it bigger by raising the scale. Okay, and at this moment when this very word will start appearing, we will also start decreasing the opacity of the old text. So select both how rich is and the Gary V. Hit T on keyboard, keyframe the opacity here and go like a couple frames ahead and keyframe the opacity again and set it to 0. And right now we'll also animate this new text very. So at the start keyframe the scale and position and then go somewhere here, let's say. So 2 frames before the old text is gone and keyframe it again. And right now go to the first set of keyframes and increase the scale by a lot, something like this, and also set the position somewhere here. And let's see how it looks right now. Okay, so the text is animated and right now we'll change the color of these dollar signs. So in order to get this color change, go to effects and presets, search for change to color and put it on this dollar sign. And now at the 42nd frame in my case, so at the frame when you want it to start changing color, keyframe the 2 option, go 5 frames ahead and keyframe the 2 option again. And right now go to the first keyframe and set the 2 value to black. And go to the second keyframe and set the 2 value to green. And right now go to the first keyframe and set the change option to hue, lightness and saturation. And right now, as you can see, the color is changing to red. So just copy this effect and paste it on the second dollar sign and it's working. So right now the only thing that is remaining is to create these dollar bills behind the Gary V's head. And you have the dollar bill that I will be using in the asset folder. But this is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is just keyframe the scale, rotation and the position. So I will be back when I do that. Okay, I think I'm done. Let's see how it looks. I will actually put these dollars a little lower, like that. But right now what you can also see in Natt's video is that all of these dollars are kinda wiggling. So in order to get that look, go to the composition with the dollars. And I have a preset for that. It's called Slide Object Wiggle. So I will put it on the dollar. And this is just basically a transform animation preset. If you go to position, you can see that in the expression field of position and rotation, I wrote wiggle. And in the brackets you put number, and these numbers indicate how strong the effect should be. So the first number basically tells you how many times per second the object should wiggle, and the second number tells you the amount of the wiggle. So let's see if these options are okay. Yeah, I think they are good. So we can basically put this preset on every other dollar bill, and let's see how it looks right now in the main composition. I think it's too subtle. Let's maybe increase this effect. Okay, right now it's better, so I've set the settings of the wiggle to on the position to 3 and 11 and on the rotation to 2 and 1.5. So right now it's everything in this first part, but what we have to also change is that the second part starts with the Gary V still talking. So as you can see, he's not color graded, and also the grid is not in the background, but the grid is on him. So in order to still get this effect, so this color grading and grid in the background in the second part of the video, we have to copy this second part of the video, and we'll also rotobrush Gary V out of this clip again. So let's call it part 2 rotobrush. Double click on that and use a rotobrush to cut Gary V out of this clip. Of course, remember to also cut the sofa with him. Okay, I've cut the Gary V out of this clip with his sofa. And right now also one more thing is that we'll actually only need the beginning of this second part, because the rest of this second part is basically just other graphics. So what we can do is shorten it by a lot, so it will be easier for us to manage this composition. So right now what you have to do is put this rotobrush layer above the grid layer, so like that, and this way the grid is only in the background. Actually, we'll also have to put it above the money layer. I've also shortened the money layer. Okay, so right now money is in the background, grid is in the background. Okay, so another thing that we have to do is copy this rotobrush layer. This is the corresponding layer from the first part. We can put it above. And on this copied layer, we can disable the rotobrush because we'll copy these effects from the corresponding layer. So let's copy it, and as you can see, it's extracting the colors so that everything looks fine, everything looks as it should look. Now let's go to this layer, copy these curves and brightness, and go to the corresponding layer from the second part and paste it here. Right now it's color graded, as you can see. Right now we'll copy the levels effect from the original part 1 layer to the original part 2 layer, and this will darken the background. Okay, and now the last thing is to also apply this bluish effect on the sofa, as you probably remember here. So in order to do that, we have to copy this layer one more time, the part 2 layer, delete everything from there. Let's make it shorter, double click on that, and rotobrush only the sofa, so cut the sofa from this clip. And right now just go to the corresponding layer from the part 1 and copy the hue and saturation effect and paste it on this layer. Okay, and you can see that the effect is applied. So right now we can start removing every graphic and text that is used in the part 1 and animate the new graphics from the part 2. So first I will do it and I will be back when I finish, and then I will describe to you what I did. So starting from 80 frames, in the text vary, I basically increased the scale and removed the opacity with time. So it's getting bigger and it's less and less visible. With the Gary V, I basically only keyframe the position. With dollar signs, I basically animated rotation, position, scale and opacity. So they are getting closer to each other and also they are getting less and less visible. So that's it. Okay, now when looking at Natt's video, I see that we can actually leave this black bottom part, but I will decrease the opacity because the original opacity was 77% and I will decrease that to 50%. So that's it in this part. Right now we'll import the tall buildings, skyscrapers and clouds. You have all of the assets in the asset folder. So first 3 assets to import are clouds, tall building and skyscrapers. And after importing the assets, of course, adjust the position and the scale of them, and then we'll start animating them from the 80 frames mark. Okay, so this is how it looks right now, and of course it will not look exactly the same like in Natt's video, because I don't have exactly the same assets, but you might be wondering how did I find exactly the same building that Natt used. And I got that picture with an AI image generator, and the one that I'm using is called Playground. And you can create 500 images per 24 hours for free. and this AI has an option called image to image, and when you paste an image here, this AI will try to create a similar image to the one that you pasted. So basically this is a very useful site for generating images. Okay, right now I've put all of these layers behind the bottom black mask layer because we want this mask to also apply on these new layers. And right now what we can do is actually color grade both the sky and the skyscrapers in the background. So in order to change that, go to effects and presets and search for hue and saturation and put it on the clouds for now and decrease the saturation. Change it so that it's kinda with a blue or green tint, like this one, and now decrease the saturation. Let's say this is pretty good. And right now let's copy this hue and saturation and paste it on the skyscrapers. Let's disable the tall building and see how it looks. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So right now what we'll do is we'll animate the opacity on both the clouds and skyscrapers layers. So select both of them, hit T on your keyboard, keyframe the opacity, go like 5 or 6 frames ahead, let's say 6 frames, keyframe it again, go to the first set of keyframes and set it to 0. Actually, let's make it longer, so like 9 frames, let's say. And right now we'll also animate the position of this tall building. So this is pretty straightforward. This is how this transition looks right now. Okay, so now right after this tall building gets on the screen, we'll start cutting it. Maybe let's say like 2 frames later or even 1 frame later. So in order to cut this building, first of all we have to duplicate this layer, then deselect everything and with nothing selected, go up here to pen tool and draw a new shape that looks like this, like that. Right now move this shape above the tall building layer and set the track matte of the second tall building to this shape layer, and also set the parent link of this tall building to this shape layer. And right now whenever you move this shape layer, this part is also moving with it. There is only one problem with that, and it's that we still can see the bottom tall building layer. So in order to prevent that, what we can do is copy this shape layer, make it visible, select the pen tool, and right now just change the shape of this layer to something like this, and set the track matte of the second tall building layer to this new shape layer. Let's move the start of this shape layers here. And right now when I move this shape layer, this should work. So we shouldn't see the upper part of the tall building, it should be cut. Yeah, and it's working. So this is how we'll animate the top part being cut. But right now what we have to do is create the inside of this building. So in order to do that, deselect everything and again go to pen tool and draw a shape that will look something like this. Something like that. Right now let's set the fill color to this kind of color, okay, and put this shape layer here. No, put this shape layer here. So behind the bottom tall building layer. And right now you can of course adjust the position of it, so I will make it look more like that. Also put this start here, and I will adjust the color of this layer. I will make it brighter. I think this looks pretty okay. Actually, I will make it brighter, so I would say like that. And right now what we'll do to make this look more realistic is I will use my preset, and it's called Inner Shadow, and I will paste this preset on this layer. And of course I will give you this preset in the asset folder. So using this preset you are able to create an inner shadow. So I will set the direction to 8, I will increase the distance, and I will increase the softness. Also I will decrease the opacity a little, and boom. As you can see right now I think it looks better. Okay, now another thing is that this inside building layer should only start appearing after the tall building is already animated, so right here. So this is this layer, let's call it inside, and move the start to this point. Okay, and let's move 1 frame after that. Select the first shape layer, keyframe the position here. Now move like 6 frames ahead, or maybe 10 frames ahead even, and keyframe the position here. And move it up, but don't completely remove it from the screen as in Natt's video. So let's move it somewhere here, let's say. Actually, when I now look at Natt's video, I will move both of these frames like a little further, because in Natt's video the tall building after being animated like stays there for a couple of frames and only then starts being cut. Yeah, and it looks pretty good. So right now we'll import the free sitting men. Okay, after importing them, set the start of all of these new free layers here. And for now adjust the position and the scale of them. Of course, put all of these free layers behind the tall building layer. Now we'll have to flip one of these men working horizontally. So select the layer, go to transform and flip it horizontally. Okay, so this is how I've set this man. And right now we'll color correct them to make them red. So search for hue and saturation and put it on one of them for now. So in order to change the color of this man, you have to check the colorize box in the hue and saturation effect. Then play with the colorize hue option to find the red color. And then change the colorize saturation and colorize lightness to get the look that you want. So for me, saturation on 91 and lightness on -18 is okay. And right now copy this effect to two other layers. And yeah, now these men are red. So right now we'll start to animate their position. So keyframe their position along with the keyframe of the building being cut. Go to the second keyframe, keyframe the position here. And we actually have the position arranged for the second keyframe. So on the first keyframe, just put them all down like that. And let's see how it looks right now. One problem is that we can see them from the sides, but the other is that I think right here they should already be visible, but they are not. So we'll keyframe the position again and just move all of them a little higher like that. Yeah, now it's good. And right now we'll also change the position of this one because he is visible on the right. Okay, so I've changed the position and it should be good right now. Let's see. Yeah, right now it's pretty good. Okay, so another thing that we have to do right now is that along with this building being cut, the whole animation is being zoomed in. So the easiest way to do that is to right click and create a new null object, and right now put it here, so above everything that it will refer to, that we will use this null object for. And right now actually select all of these layers except for the upper tall building layer, because right now we'll want to parent link these layers to this null object, and the upper tall building layer already have the parent link, so we'll not be able to do that. But right now in this null object, open the scale, keyframe the scale, go to the second keyframe, keyframe the scale again, actually also keyframe the position and increase the scale and change the position like that. Let's see how it looks right now. Yeah, so basically the whole animation is getting zoomed in, that's okay. Okay, I actually checked in Premiere Pro and this whole animation is happening too fast right now, so we'll have to delay that a little. We can just select all of these keyframes and start this animation later, and we can also make this animation a little longer. Also, we can make the entrance of this tall building a little longer. Okay, I also checked again, and one more thing that we have to do is we have to make everything more smooth, because right now this is not smooth at all. So select these two set of keyframes. So this is the animation of the tall building coming on the screen, and hit F9 on keyboard and let's make an ease in animation. That will look like that. And right now we have to smooth all of these keyframes. So hit F9 and go here and create an ease in animation. Okay, yeah, like that. Let's see right now how it looks. Yeah, right now it looks better. Okay, so I've checked again and I think we should make this animation a little longer. So put the start to the left, like right here, and this will be good right now, I think. So right now we'll create this text in 3D, $54,000 and $55,000. So first I will create it and then I will show you how I did that. But remember to check the 3D box to put these layers in 3D. Animating this text is simply a position animation, but in order to create this text in 3D, you have to create new text layers, then of course type what you want to type here, so $55,000 and $54,000, and then I will show you my settings. So go right here, transform, and just copy my settings. So I've set the Y rotation to -13, the Z rotation to -11, and also I've played with the other settings, and this is how I got that look. And I think it looks pretty good, so you can just copy these settings or you can play with these settings by yourself. And right now we'll animate this text coming on the screen. So basically in my case I checked and I have to go to 138th frame, and we have to move this layer behind the tall building layer, so like that. Keyframe the position at the start, and then for now move both of them here, so hide them, and go like 5 frames ahead. And in this moment we want the 54,000 visible, so move it right there. Okay, so I checked when I should start making these animations, and this is what I've came up with. So the first animation, so 54,000, lasts 9 frames and it starts at 138 frames. The second animation, so 55,000, starts at 161 frames and also lasts 9 frames. So you can check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And yeah, this looks pretty cool. Okay, so this animation is done, and right now we can create the next animations. So this businessman and a hand with money. So import the businessman from the asset folder, and right now we'll create the animation where the two parts of this tall building will actually connect again, and they will move down on the screen, and the businessman will appear from behind this building. So I will do that and then I will describe to you what I did. Okay, so basically to move this building down, all we have to do is use a null object that we created earlier. So right now it looks like that. So in order to create this, you have to basically just keyframe the position on the null object that we created, and keyframe the position on the shape layer that controls the position of the top of the building. And also one more thing that you should remember is you should connect the newly created text layers, so 54,000 and 55,000, to the null object, so this way it will move with it, like that. So right now we'll animate the businessman coming from behind this building. So go like to this moment, or maybe 1 frame before that. So like this moment, so the text and these 3 men working should still be a little visible. Put this businessman behind everything that is associated with the tall buildings. So behind this inside and behind this 3 men working. And right now keyframe the position in this place. I will go like 11 frames ahead and keyframe the position again and change the position so he's fully visible. Actually, I will make him bigger. So this is how this animation looks right now. So this is just simply a position animation. And right now we'll add the red rectangle on his eyes. So go up here and select rectangle tool and draw a rectangle. Make the color of that rectangle red. And now put the start of this rectangle where the start of the businessman is, and put this rectangle layer right above the businessman, so right there. Go here and parent link it to the businessman, so it's just moving with him like that. And right now we'll have to color correct this businessman. So as you can see, I already applied hue and saturation effect, and I've set it to this settings. You can copy it, but we'll do one more thing that will make this look a little better, I think. So copy this layer, copy the businessman layer, and now in this duplicate, delete the hue and saturation effect and go to effects and presets and search for extract. You can hide the bottom businessman layer for now, and right now delete the black points, like that, so only this part is visible. And right now let's increase the softness a little, like that, and make the bottom layer visible. And even right now, as you can see, I think it looks a little better because it's giving this light effect on his face and also on his shirt a little. So you can use it, or if you don't like it, then ignore it. Okay, and right now I think the last hard thing in this whole animation is to make the money falling effect appear from behind the tall building. Go to this point, so where you can see a little of the background at the top. Find the money falling green screen that we used before and copy it and paste it at the top. Move the start of it right here. Go to the moment where the tall building is animated, so right there, and right now position the money falling effect, so like that I would say. Put this money falling effect behind both of the businessman layers. And right now, with nothing selected, go to rectangle tool and create a rectangle like that. Right now, put the start of it somewhere here, so it's not that confusing. I mean, this whole composition is still pretty confusing, but at least it will be a little more manageable. And move this rectangle just above the money falling effect. And right now set the track matte of the money falling effect to this layer. and this way the money falling effect is only visible where this rectangle is. So right now you can basically open the position keyframe of this rectangle, keyframe it at the start, and move 2 frames ahead, and you can move this rectangle. That's why I wanted this rectangle to be that big. Basically just move this rectangle down like that, 2 more frames like that, even 3 more frames. And at this point you don't have to change it anymore because the money effect is almost on the whole screen, and the tall building will anyway be at the bottom. Okay, right now what I also want to do is make this money in the background less green, so make it more gray, I would say. I will set the saturation to 19. I think that's good. And now the next thing is to add this hand with money. So import it from the asset folder. And so all we have to do is just color grade it and then animate the rotation and the position. So that's pretty easy, and I'm going to only show you how to color grade it. So go to hue and saturation, put it on this hand. So I've set the master saturation to -71 and master hue to 187. Now we'll animate the position and the rotation of this hand. Okay, and in order to animate the rotation on this hand, you have to put the anchor point right here. So go up here, select pan behind, anchor point tool, and set the anchor point right there. And this allows you to basically, when you move the rotation, it's moving from this point, and if the anchor point was in the middle, it would be just spinning around. So right now just animate the position and the rotation. One more thing is to put this layer behind the tall building layer, so like that. So this is how it looks right now. As you can see, it's coming on the screen and then it's just waving. That's what we wanted. So now the last thing is to create this text $450,000 and to create all of the other texts from this part 2. I have been ignoring this text because it's easy to create, and after watching this tutorial up to this point, I'm sure you will be able to create these captions by yourself. So right now we'll create the $450,000 text. So we'll do that the same way that we did the text how rich is. So basically copy this layer, move this layer above everything else for now, put the start on 1015, so 255 frames, at least for me. Right now, as you can see, it's creating this text, but what we can do is change the text here to this number, and right now, as you can see, it's also working. It's working the same way that it worked with the first text. But also remember to remove the opacity keyframes and to remove the drop shadow. And I will actually make it like 2 frames longer than it was before. And right now adjust the properties of it, so increase the width and the height of it, change the color to red, and actually I will change the version of the font to regular, so this is how it looks. So basically right now the last thing that is remaining is to create the transition between the second part of this video and the third part of this video. The grid was gone a long time ago, so we can actually shorten it, so we'll not need to decrease the opacity of that. Right now the way this transition is done is by moving this businessman, this hand, this number and this building all down, while also decreasing their opacity and while also decreasing the opacity of the background. So to move everything at once, the easiest way will be to create a new null object, put it at the top and connect everything that you want to move to this null object. So connect this money, connect the hand, connect 2 layers with a businessman. And I think that's it, because for the rest we have the null object one. So open the position keyframe on both of these null objects, keyframe the position here, keyframe the position in the moment where the part 3 is starting, and let's move like 7 frames ahead. Right now keyframe the position again, and let's see how it's working. So basically select both of these nulls and move it down. Let's see what is really moving down. Yeah, it's working. Everything that should be moving is moving. So basically we will only put it like here, and in this moment this will actually disappear by the opacity keyframe. But right now we'll decrease the opacity on most of the layers so that the Gary V clip is visible. So let's just go layer by layer and see if we want to decrease the opacity on that. This composition really got complicated, but fortunately it's coming to an end. So right here keyframe the opacity, go to the second keyframe, keyframe the opacity, and this way we decrease the opacity on the number. So I will be back when I basically keyframe the opacity on everything. Oh, and one more thing, we'll still need the bottom black mask for the third part of the video, because even in the third part of the video Gary Vee is still color graded, so do not animate the opacity of this black bottom. Okay, so I did it and let's see how it looks right now. Yeah, basically it's disappearing, and as you can see the black bottom is still there. But there is one more thing, except for of course the captions that I will add later, and this thing is that we'll have to again color correct everything in this third part of the clip. So you already know how to do it, so I will be back when I do that. Okay, so right now as you can see it's color graded, and now really the last thing to do is to create a zoom at the start, and then every time Gary Vee is saying very very very. And the easiest way to zoom in this whole part 3 is to create a new null object, put it above all the layers that it will affect, select all of these layers and parent link them to this null object, and right now go to like kinda this point, so in between the transition, during the transition, and open the scale and the position on the null object, keyframe it there, and go to like this point, let's say, keyframe it again, and right now increase the scale, and we don't even have to change the position because it's good. And right now I will increase the scale every time Gary Vee says very. Okay, so I did that, and let's right now see how it looks. The transition, here it's zooming, then Gary Vee is talking, and then the zooms. Basically on every one of these zooms when Gary Vee says very, I'm increasing the scale per 5%, and all of these zooms last 3 frames. So yeah, right now the only thing that is remaining is to add captions, and I will do that myself. I will not show you that because you for sure already know how to add captions. So this is the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching and see you in the next tutorial.